I hope you guys are well and safe. I welcome you all to the Rehash series Live and Close, Conversations that will steer change. We have with us Anand. I'm very excited and pleased to introduce him as our first speaker of the Rehash series. And he's sitting in Germany and he's connecting with us. So hello Anand, how have you been?
Hi. Yeah, thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Anand has a bachelor's in civil engineering from CEPT University, and he's currently pursuing a master's in integrative technologies and architectural design research from the University of Stuttgart, Germany. So Anand, tell us a little about your background and help us understand why you decided to take up parametrics.
Yeah, as you said, I graduated from CEPT in 2017, after which I worked for a while. So I was in Portugal for 7 months. I was working at a research lab called Digital Fabrication Laboratory in University of Porto, Portugal. Where I was working on robotics and gridshell structures. It was like a research project. Later in 2018-19, I was back in India and I was involved in teaching along with Professor Gurdev Singh at Navratna University. And then later on, I worked for a brief while with Professor Shahzad Irani at Schafbock Design Workshop in Ahmedabad, where I was mainly involved in membrane structures and design of some special parametric shells, etc. kind of projects. And then parametrics, why I took parametrics, I would say that I never saw parametrics as a research field, or I never wanted to dive into parametrics, but I saw parametrics as a really useful tool because it provides you this ocean of possibilities and things that you can do alongside doing structural analysis or designing something. You can do optimization, you can do form finding, structural analysis, and moreover, you get another very interesting thing about it is that you can all do everything in one file. You don't need to use different software for each and everything. So that was very interesting for me. And then another thing is that usually, if you look at programming, then programming looks very scary initially if you code in any language. But then Grasshopper allows you this visual scripting experience, which is quite welcoming and easy to start with for any layman who is not from a programming background or who doesn't know how to code. And it is also a nice gateway, to get into programming later on with customized maybe Python or etc. scripts. So that's why I found parametric design, especially Grasshopper, really interesting. Yeah.
Right. So because you mentioned CEPT, so can you share your experiences while using parametric tools at CEPT University? I mean, how was the experience like?
Yeah, so at CEPT, I actually never used parametrics at CEPT when I was at CEPT. So so I knew about parametrics, but I never got a chance to implement it and work in detail with it. But when I was in Portugal, I got a chance to explore what is parametric design and how I can use all these tools to influence structural design and how I can design more optimum structures. But then at CEPT, when I was there at CEPT, there was always this thought or an idea that I want to use this somewhere, but I was not sure when. And then that idea generated when we were working on a paper tube structure. We were designing a paper tube structure, and then it was quite challenging to build that. It was like 7 meters long and 3 meters high, and we had lots of problems while making that structure. And a lot of those problems, apart from difficulties in structural analysis, a lot of those problems also came from mistakes in fabrication. because there were the small errors which we had in fabrication of members, and that kind of accumulated and increased our problems extensively. And then I thought that maybe parametric design, or which allows you to deal with large numbers or large set of members or complex structures,
Right.
could
Yes.
be a
Yes.
really nice thing to explore further. So that's how I got into parametrics. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So, so what made you, move to Stuttgart for a specialization? I mean, you have already told us about your experience at CEPT. How has the transition been, from a civil background for you?
Yeah. So I mean, the need, or the feeling to work along with architects parallelly has always been there from the beginning. So even when I was at CEPT, I used to collaborate extensively with designers and architects, and we used to mainly build things. So it was less computers at that time. It was more about sketching, going to the workshop, making some prototypes, checking things, building, breaking them. It was always there. And then Stuttgart, because I was also very sure from the beginning that I don't want to do mainstream architecture, but I want to do structural
Right.
engineering, which is quite close to architects. So such that I work closely with architects. So, and then Stuttgart also has this big legacy of lightweight architecture because of
Yes.
Frei Otto and
Of
Jörg
course.
Schleich and Fritz Leonhard. Yeah. And therefore, I mean, it was always there at the back of my mind that I want to go to this place sometime and do something there. So that was the inspiration. And also, it was a lot from Kiritz, because Kiritz from SID, he worked under Frei Otto for a while, and he used to
Yes.
tell us this all these stories about Stuttgart, and the whole stories about Munich Olympic Stadium or multi-hall Gridshell when he was here. So that kind of inspired and got me into this thing about Stuttgart. And also, if you look at Stuttgart, then apart from this academic research point of view, Stuttgart is also quite good or ahead in terms of structural designing. So if you talk about some of the best structural designing firms in Europe, then they are in Stuttgart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, so all these factors kind of inspired me to apply for this ITECH course, which is kind of taking forward the legacy of Frei Otto and his works, and diving into the same field of lightweight and efficient architecture. And yeah, therefore I applied here and tried to come here.
I mean, I am sure everybody who has, an interest in parametrics have already read about Frei Otto and and his works, and of course, not to mention Kreet Patel has been an inspiration to all of us. I mean everybody from CEPT. I think all of us have gone to him at some point of our journey at CEPT to ask questions, and he's cleared all our doubts. He's cleared more than our
Hmm.
doubts, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how rewarding has your educational journey been at CEPT and Stuttgart? How would you, encourage the students to specialize in our field?
Yeah, so I would say it has been quite rewarding at both the places, even CEPT as well as Stuttgart. So, if I first talk about CEPT, then I would say CEPT is only one, or maybe one of the very few institutes in India where you can so closely work with designers and architects. And
Right.
usually
Yeah.
there is this big gap. I am not sure about the professional gap, but in the mindset, the design mindset, there is generally this huge gap between a structural engineer and an architect, and that sometimes leads us to this linear workflow where the
Hmm.
engineer is always asked to make things work. But then
Right.
gave me this really precious platform where I can work alongside parallelly with designers and architects and get to know about that. And I think in that way it was really really fruitful for me, because yeah because I mean there are so many ways in which you can collaborate, right, with electives or summer workshops,
Yes.
etc.
Yes.
And that was really nice in terms of CEPT. And then Stuttgart, It has been 1 year for me, so I have completed 1 year in my course right now. Until now, what the most important learning I got in Stuttgart is that at ITECH is, so there are so many platforms which teach you computational design. I mean, you can learn it anywhere through books, through online learning platforms, but then there are very few places which teach you how to implement computational design, how to use it
Yes.
correctly. One is you learn the tool, and the other is you apply the tool correctly. And I think Stuttgart ITECH course really helped me in understanding that, because in some of the cases it also happens that you use parametric design to create something really wonderful, but then you also at the end question the implementation, or how it is useful. Is it just a sculpture, or how people can, it can be used to habitat people, you know? So that is one of the most fruitful things which I got from here till now in Stuttgart. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
that's one of the
hmm,
major, I would say, uh, challenges that we have faced in the field all the while. That how will it be made? We can design everything on the software, but how will it be made? That's the real challenge that comes behind after the designing.
hmm, yeah.
So,
And also, I mean, yeah, go ahead. No, go
please
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I mean, you said that apart from how fruitful the journey has been, what would you say to the people or the students who want to get
Yeah.
into this field? So, I mean, I just wanted to answer that question, and I would say, I mean, I am also not someone who would be able to answer that correctly, because I'm also really initial in my career. But what I found till now is that what very important thing to know is what are you exactly interested in, because even if you talk about parametrics or shell structures or this kind of things, there are so many subtopics in it, and I think it is really important to realize at some point what is that interests you or excites you, and what is that you want to dive into as a career. So I think that understanding should be there, and the more earlier you get, the better it is. So yeah, that's all. And I mean, inspiration is everywhere around you. So you can get inspired by almost anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is just a question that I am very intrigued to ask. Had you been given the chance to go back to what you did at CEPT University, what would you change? I mean, how would you modulate something that failed back then?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change SEPT at all. I mean, it is perfect as it is. And I mean, it was amazing the 5 years that I spent over there. I really, still, I miss them and cherish those 5 years. But still, if you ask me to change something, then so the SBST course, or the Faculty of Technology undergrad course on civil construction, is majorly a course which focuses on project management.
Yes.
So if you graduate from that course, then you would be quite versed with project management and the practical aspects of construction, I would say, because it is bachelor's in civil construction and not bachelor's in civil engineering. So
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
big difference. And then most of the times when students apply to this course, they take the civil word in civil construction as granted. But then what is different is that the course is quite offbeat or quite different as terms to a conventional civil engineering course.
Right.
And
Yes.
for me, I didn't pursue project management. I was interested in structural engineering, right? And then what I think I missed is that I missed those uh, lectures where the course could have been more extensive in terms of structural engineering. But still, I
Right.
mean, that's nothing wrong with how it is, how SEPT is, right? Because the course is not meant for structural engineering.
Yes.
But
Yes.
even if you ask me to change something, then I would like to change that. Yeah.
All right, great. So we are already aware, like you specified, your inclinations towards shell structures and natural building materials. Would you elaborate
Hmm.
more on that?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, shells have always been an interest from me from the very beginning. But then the greater thing has been designing efficient structures and designing optimum structures, because most of the structures which you see nowadays around you just overuse the material. Mainly it could be because of lack of design intent, or it could be because of unapt construction methods available. So so I have been always interested in construction methods which are not just uh, which are more structural and which also influences the structures directly. And then from the very beginning, inclination has been towards natural building materials. So materials like bamboo, wood, adobe, ram dirt, stone, how these materials could be integrated with high-tech design methods or computational design methods, and that could lead to efficient structural design. So how geometry, how understanding of geometry, how understanding of hands-on material working skills, understanding the material, and how the core principles behind structural design could be integrated, and then you come up with something. So that has been my interest from the very beginning. And I mean, it also took me a while to figure out this, and it has been a journey, a lot of reading, a lot of implementation, and then you finally realize that this is what you're seeking for. And I think this would also change in future. So the more you learn, the more clearer it becomes. And then I think shells is one subtopic in it. So when you talk about geometry, then that is where shells come in, because shells have this double curvature or single curvature, which makes the structure more efficient. So when you talk about a beam, and then when you talk about an arch, then arch is more efficient than a beam, because you need to bend the beam, because it is bent
Right.
and it takes loads more efficiently. But also an arch is difficult to construct because it has this curvature and beam is flat. And between these two things, there is this huge research gap. So that is also another
Yes.
thing which
Yes.
interests me a lot. So how to construct shells efficiently, because usually it just takes a hell lot of, especially formwork or false work, to construct the shells. So yeah.
Definitely. I mean, structure plays an integral part in the construction of every pavilion and every structure that has been parametrically generated. I think
Hmm.
we do have a little bit of time left. I would just ask a very quick question that has different answer for every individual in this field. What exactly is parametrics to you?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know the textbook answer to that, but
No, we all have
according to
read
me,
all of it. So it's your
yeah.
answer, your definition of parametrics.
Yeah, I mean, what I understand parametrics as designing with some rules, with a set of rules or grammar, which you use to design. But what I also feel really important is that how well you define those parameters or rules, because sometimes this kind of tools, parametric tools, give you such wide variety of options that the main core idea behind design is left
Is
out
lost.
somewhere, and all you
Yes.
care about is creating more beautiful or ornamental uh, structure. So I think keeping in mind what are you designing for, what is the main aim behind that design, and setting parameters based upon that, and then using parametric design, then it could be really, I don't know, wonderful maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, this field can turn something which is very mundane into something very interesting and highly promising. On
Hmm.
that note, I am going to end today's conversation. It's been a
Mhm.
pleasure connecting with you, Anand. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting, and thanks for having me.
And we wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. I'm sure you are going to do just terrific in your upcoming thesis.
Thank you.
uh,
Yeah,
so
and good luck to
and
you as well. Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. For all our viewers, hope this session brought about some clarity. We hope this intrigued a few minds to pursue parametric design as a field further. Don't worry, we got your back. Take the plunge. We'll guide you through it. And signing off, guys, but stay tuned. We have more live sessions coming up every weekend of September. So, guys, let's rehash a step ahead. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.